Despite the ever-present discussion on the overall quality of the franchise, it's impossible to ignore Sonic's popularity, so of course, its origin point has been dissected and analyzed more than enough. Although, if you want to get technical, this is not Sonic's first appearance, as he had a cameo in Red Mobile 5 months before his debut title on the Mega Genesis drive, but that is besides the point. For once, I am not here to provide the usual insight about the game, so if you are here for that, I apologize. I don't believe that I can provide any kind of unique commentary that wasn't done better before. However, I do feel the need to reflect upon myself. Come the festive season, and one can't help but look back at the year in its entirety, and as time continues to pass through me, my thoughts drift beyond its limits. How did I get here? Should you still be here listening, allow me a brief egotistic moment of retrospection, and I promise we'll get back to the regular schedule soon after. It shouldn't come as a surprise, but this was the first game I ever played. I don't exactly remember how I felt during that moment, but it doesn't take much insight to identify its lasting impact on me. It was impossible not to be instantly charmed by its energy. No knowledge or understanding of what 16-bit meant, or what blast processing even was. It was just something fun, and that was the full extent of it. As a kid, I did consider myself a fan of the series, excited at every new thing that I could find related to it, but that was a long time ago. Don't get me wrong, I have no nostalgic attachment to my childhood. Far from it. I still like the games, even the most recent ones. I'm just less enthusiastic about them, at least in comparison. This is not supposed to be an apologetic defense about them. I just genuinely like them all, even with their flaws. And I would know them. I got all the emblems on Sonic Adventure 2 on 3 different occasions, and I can't shake this ominous feeling that I want to be allowed to die before doing it one last time. Each game carries its own identity, and while some are far more beloved than others, at their lowest, I can at least appreciate the attempt at something different. Consider the following. Just within the racing genre, you have Sonic Drift, Sonic R, Sonic Riders, Sonic Rivals, and Sonic and Sega All-Stars. If this extensive assortment is still not enough, and you're not afraid of stepping into the world of fan games, then you'll be presented with one of the best, and my personal favorite kart racing game of all time, Sonic Robo Blast 2 Kart. This is why I find it hard to believe when someone that likes video games has the courage to say that Sonic is bad. Okay, which one? If this is about the classic 2D games, I can somehow understand, and I believe that expectations often play a big part against it. New players not familiar with the flow of the game might be under the impression that they should speed through the levels because the collective unconscious has this unmovable conviction that Sonic has to go fast, all the time. Not aware that this was built back during the replayable sensibilities of the arcade days, where they would allow you to go fast, but only if you knew what you're doing. How were you supposed to react to the upcoming enemies when the field of view is so small? You weren't. You were supposed to play this several times until you memorized it where they were, along with everything else. If you ever feel like you can't distinguish between this arcade era of games and modern games, just remember this. If there is a score counter and you are on the screen at all times, then the developers probably wanted you to replay it. With that in mind, despite not being my favorite, even within the 2D category, I still find myself replaying it more than many of the others. given how easily you can play through its entirety in just under an hour. You also have enough paths and shortcuts to make each playthrough feel different enough. There is also the way that you can decide to go through it, as you can try rushing through it to see how fast you can complete it, but how about trying to do it without losing any rings and destroying all the badniks? Maybe exploring for a shortcut that you might never even noticed before. Should the experience be too archaic for those interested, it's very easy to play a version without modern improvements like widescreen and the iconic spin dash through the Sonic's Origins collection. Personally, I would recommend going for Sonic 1 Forever, as it's much better in terms of customizable options and also completely free. However, I do find myself preferring to return to the simplicity of the original. It's also the only Sonic game that has this interesting back and forth pacing when it comes to its level structure, as Green Hill Zone is a fantastic first level, followed by Marble Zone, which leaves something to be desired, only to pick back up again with Spring Yard Zone, continuing this rhythm until the end of the game. To this day, I still can't understand how they managed to do such a thing. On the surface, I always thought that I didn't like those specific zones, because they had too many moments where you were forced to stop and wait for platforms to move in your favor. But Spring Yard Zone is filled with those, and I don't mind those as much. It's possible that Marble Zone, Labyrinth Zone, and Scrap Brain Zone just have too many tense moments back to back, while all the other zones have these intermediate sections where you can relax and safely catch some wild speed, or just safely bump around while collecting points. To make my final point clear, the original Sonic is neither the best or worst of the classic games. I could even say that overall, I have more problems with the sequel than the original. The highs are higher, but the lows are definitely lower. A Chemical Plant is great, Casino Night is a classic, and Mystic Cave has that funky spooky music going for it. But an auto-scroller after 3 Metropolis stages? I take personal offense to that one. Plus, the special stages are the worst of the classic trilogy. There, I said it. It's not like this is the most outrageous opinion one has ever said about this series. If anything, the current dichotomy between the popular opinion on Sonic's medium of origin and everything else is absolutely bizarre to me. Listening to the same permeated opinion for years on how Sonic was never good, and in the next minute there is now all kinds of merchandise lining every store, while a complete trilogy of live-action movies is a box office success. It got me wondering for a moment if I shifted word lines or something. If you are wondering if that is the reason I chose this to end the year on, no. I just needed a break from so many long projects in a row. I'm pretty sure some part of me died in the process this time. Also, I got myself one of those Retrobit Saturn controllers and wanted to use it on something casually. It's a pretty nice controller, if you ignore the fact that you can simultaneously hold start and the A button together. Wanna know how I discovered this? Because I couldn't enter the damn level select code on Sonic. Isn't that ironic? If you are still here, thank you. I'll see you on the next one.